And how we doing tonight, people? Yes, as it turns out, Ian was not available to do a live chat tonight, so I've taken upon myself to do a commemorative "Keep the Home Fires Burning" live show in Ian's honor. Yes, so tonight's just gonna be a solo show. Me, I'm only gonna do this for about an hour or so, but I didn't want to forego the chat altogether. And let's see, we have Tracy with us. Tracy, how you doing? Subscribed last night, by the way. Can't wait for content. Good to see you, Tracy. Happy. Steve brought up an excellent point. Happy Memorial Day is not really an appropriate sentiment, although that's certainly the way most people say it. I'm going to opt with something that I took from Peter Davidson. Simply say, never forget. That commemorates the fallen that we have lost. And to anyone that you folks have lost, never forget. Lance Chafin is here. He says, "Hiya, Thrash. How you doing tonight? How's the picture? Is it nice and crisp enough? If it's not, I'll tweak the ocular and try to make it a little sharper. But so good to see you folks. Ian, again, couldn't make it tonight, so I'm doing one in his honor. Sean Innes says, I thought I heard a ding of a notification. Hey, all. Yes, Sean, you did get a ding of a notification, and we are here, and we are so glad that you were able to join us. It's a touch blurry. You know what? Give me 1 second, vote. I think I grabbed my cheap pair of glasses. Don't go anywhere. No, those aren't much better either. Let me try these. That's a little better. So let's just see. I'm just going to tweak until I can see that I haven't shaved this morning. Is that good enough for you guys? If it's still a little fuzzy, let me know. Not much I can do about the backlighting tonight. Again, I was going to film in the garage, but every time I do that, I run the risk of buffering and glitching. You guys hate that. Tracy said, "It's a very sad day. So many lost and so young indeed. Indeed. Commiserations to all." Let's just see. Oh, Liz Javen says crisp and clear and no one fear instead of crisp and clean and no caffeine. Tab is here. Terrell Eugene Bellinger says good evening and happy Memorial Day. Oh, and Tab, were you with us last night briefly? It seemed all of a sudden, boom, a bunch of people were saying, hey Tab, hey Tab, hey Tab. And when I went to say hi to you, there was no tab in the chat. So I don't know if you couldn't stay long or if people were just shouting out to you in absentia. But either way, it's great to have you here tonight. Oh, by the way, as always, to folks who can't make it tonight, Lisa Fields couldn't make it last night. I talked to her this morning. If you can't make it tonight, more than understand. Music Girl 67, we're thinking about you as well. Tom the Hungry Jerk, Baked Bean, and anyone who only makes it to the replay. Retro Nerd Girl couldn't make it last night. We're always thinking about you. To anyone who can't make it, hello in the chat. I feel like, remember Romper Room where she had the magic mirror and she said hello to everybody at home. Everybody at home, consider yourself helloed. Oh, Keithy is here. Says Tracy, I'm trying to subscribe to your new channel with a little luck. Yes, with a little luck. With a little bit of luck. With a little bit of luck. David is with us. David says hello, or hey, at least. Hey, Dave. Great to see you. Danny Staten says greetings from South Carolina. And greetings to you, Danny. So great to see you. And in addition to the picture now being of a decent quality, I like to think the sound is good as well. Shut in says Tab, Lance, Keith, Tracy. By the way, I tried clicking on your new name and doing a search for the new channel sub. Oh, David apparently is either from Minnesota or shouting out to Minnesota. Either way, hello, Minnesota. The only time I've been to Minnesota, I was in Minneapolis about 20 or so years ago. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was a place I used to hang out called the Brits Cafe. Really cool city. Loved it out there. And oh, moving forward. Yes, I was able to find. How I found Tracy? Um, I did a search, and I can't remember how I did it now. All right, never mind. But I found it and I subscribed. Just try typing Tracy's fractured history and more. I think that's how I did it. In any event, I did it. It was done. And I can't wait for some of your history posts. Keithy says, hello to everyone by Tammy since he ignores me. LOL. That should say Danny ignores me. Tammy as in Tammy and the Professor? No, Danny. Oh, Keith, nobody ignores you. How could anyone ignore you except maybe Hooper the Hippo? By the way, I loved the Hooper the Hippo shot you put on Facebook earlier today. Excellent, excellent. So again, this is all impromptu. I have nothing planned. You guys want to talk about old war movies? You want to talk about vintage TV? You want to talk about my dad jokes? You guys want to talk about personal experiences? I'm game. I don't even have a trivia contest set up for tonight. I know you're probably really disappointed to hear that. But anyway, we're just going to do sort of a open mic night, a free form. Oh, and Tracy says, just type the name you see above. That's kind of where I was going. It worked for me. And she goes on to say, that's it. Ian gets a new girlfriend, and we're thrown to the wind. Isn't that all the case? It's high school all over again. Heaven forfend. Danny Satan says, hello, all. Oh, by the way, Danny, I love those new Starlog posts you've been posting, by the way. Absolutely great stuff. I love that magazine when I was a kid. And Wajamin is here, says hello, everyone. And Wajamin, I love the series you've been doing. He's been splitting up his time between dad jokes involving squirrels and marriage jokes. And if we could just find some way of linking the two and having squirrel marriage jokes, we'd really have something. Lance Chafin says, like a candle in the wind with Ian. Well, you know what? We got 8 people on and 6 likes. That's almost 100%, but I'm sure we can get it up there. Oh, and Danny's giving us links. He's our link master. He is our missing link. Actually, Danny, you could try to do a link to Tracy as well, by the way, but be sure to give links to all of your channels as well. And please to Wajamin, as I though I'm sure everyone has already subscribed to him, it's always nice to give shout out links. David says, I was a TV junkie. You're in very, very, very good company. I watched a lot of TV as a kid growing up as well. Zubik says, good Memorial Day, everyone. Good Memorial Day. Yes, Zubik, good Memorial Day to you, and never forget. That's going to be my catchphrase, my counter, my response. Never forget. I got that from Pete Davidson. I actually have a post of that in the bridge, and I'm sure you know that anecdote. Let's see what we got here. Oh, Dave says Svengoolie. I remember Svengoolie from when he was it Channel 56. This is in the mid 80s. There was a they had a kung fu theater and other things, and they brought in they had Creature Double Feature for themselves. And around 83, 84, they brought in Son of Svengoolie. So I was watching him back then. That was almost 40 years ago. Love me some. Svengoolie Gary Carpenter is here, says, hey there. I'm late. Gary, no, you're right on time. We only started just a few minutes ago. And again, this is impromptu, so there's nothing to miss. Azubik says, I couldn't pick a worse day to quit black tar heroin. An excellent airplane reference, although went a little dark there. Get it? Dark. With the black tar heroin dark. Let's see what else we get going on here. Let's give it this Thrash wearing your shirt. Now, with any luck at all, I'll get my shirt this week. I got an email the end of last week saying my shirts had shipped. Of course, Memorial Day weekend, you don't see a lot of post office stuff going around, so I'm sure I'll get it sometime next week. Gary Carpenter says, Z, you meant quit. I'm sure that's actually what he meant, and that's how I read it, because of course it's an airplane reference. Picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue. I used to sniff glue, but my nose got stuck together. Keithy says, just subscribe to Chase Tracy's channel. They said she's up to 26,524. Tracy, if you have 26,000 plus subscribers this early in your channel, you're going to put me to shame. Tracy says, I didn't know that people outside of Chicagoland area knew about Son of Svengoolie. Oh yeah, they sublet it. They sublet it. That again, that was 40 years ago. Terrell Eugene Billinger says, which forgotten and underrated early Fox show do you prefer better? Duet, Open House, Werewolf, The New Adventures of Beans Baxter, Get a Life, Parker Lewis Can't Lose, or Herman's Head? Agony of choice. Give me a second because I have to say hi to Mike and Kathy. Mike and Kathy, how you doing? Mike and Kathy says you just love to hang with us. I certainly do, Mike and Kathy, and I'm certainly glad you could make it. I'm going to take those in order. I loved Duet, particularly the first couple of seasons. It kind of went off the rail. They lost. There was some changes in cast, but I loved the first couple of seasons. I think it actually went to Open House, which is why you have the hyphen there. I didn't watch Werewolf. My brother's favorite show was The New Adventures of Beans Baxter. I did watch it with him. It was a pretty solid show. Absolutely loved Get a Life. Parker Lewis Can't Lose and Herman's Head were good, but I'm gonna have to go with Get a Life. And of course, the mom from Get a Life was also the mom in The New Adventures of Bean Baxter, the mom from Father Knows Best. Eleanor Donahue, who was also, as we know, through Dave's channel, was on Andy Griffith for a while. Azublik says, I've already forgotten all those shows. Terrell. Slan says, I'm getting 94 DVDs this week and next. You're going to need a bigger shelf. Zublik says, yeah, I remember you mentioning it, Lance. I think these are even more he's getting. Lance Chapin says, where's Emily, Cindy D, and Tug? Tug had plans this weekend. He bought by last night to say he had plans and wasn't able to stick around much. Oh, hello, Tug. Shout out to you in absentia. Emily and Cindy were here last night. They may have not realized that that Ian is not on, and that I'm going solo. If you guys make it, we would love to see you. If you don't, you catch us at replay. We were thinking about you. Love you. Happy. Yep. Never forget. Tracy says, if I had that subs, I'd send half a good chunk of them to your way. I wouldn't know what to do with that many, neither would I. Gary Carpenter says, how are you doing today, Tracy? And Tracy goes on to say hello to Mike and Kathy. Zublik says, what happened to ENC? Still working on his taking Memorial Day off? Yeah, it's officially. He gave me a text saying to go ahead and have fun with you guys tonight, that he wasn't going to be able to make it. And Tracy says, I am doing better every day. Thank you. Gary Carpenter says, Svengoolie had great movies. He really did. He had those classic old sci-fi horror films. They were great. Mike and Kathy say, just watching Bruce Willis on Mad About You. One of the funniest bits they ever did was when they got Bruce Willis to do that Mad About You. That's the one where she's having the baby. And Paul Reiser, they're sneaking through the hospital trying to get to see the new baby. And Paul Reiser asked Bruce Willis, do you know where the maternity ward is? And Bruce goes, because he had just had his third child at that point. Shannon says Ian C. per request took the night off. Yes, he did. David says Bride of Frankenstein. Yes, Bride of Frankenstein. I have a set of commemorative mugs from Frankenstein. One has the monster, one has the bride, and one has the two of them looking at each other in a uncharacteristically happy way. Let's just see what else we got here. Oh, and Tracy goes on to say, thank us for our positive vibes. Gary Carpenter says, I loved the Monster Squad with Fred Grandy. Yes, pre-Love Boat, pre-Congress. Fred Grandy. I love the Monster Squad too. Danny, for a while you were showing episodes of the Monster Squad late night. Was there a copyright ding on that, or you just got bored with it? Well, why'd you stop showing Monster Squad episodes? Because I was eating them up. Lynn says, Thrash, too bad I can't be on with you. I know. Hopefully, when I finish taking this new computer course, I'll be able to set everything up and actually have guests. Of course, Danny will have to be first. He's waited all these months. Liz Jiffin says, I just ordered the Monster Squad on eBay. Shannon says, I was reading about this Randall scandal documentary coming out. They mentioned Bruce Willis having substantial trouble on set 3 years ago, and this guy, Randall Emmett, was abusive towards him about it. That is so, so, so not cool. As we know, Bruce Willis is not doing well, and that's very uncool. Keith E says, if Ian was here, I would complain he doesn't have 4,000 hours of viewing time. No, he doesn't. He's kind of sensitive about it. But then who does? Gary Cameron says, with Jason, I've never seen that movie. Mike and Kathy says, people still buying DVDs. We have a couple hundred, as do I. Daryl Johnson is here. Daryl Johnson says, Bob, other brother Daryl, so good you could make it today. Thank you. Danny says, I never got no copyright for the Monster Squad. Oh, well, so why did you stop? You were just bored with them? But I'm glad you never got no copyright ding on the Monster Squad. Gary Carpenter says, I found another movie with your name on it, Lancelot and Guinevere. Yeah, that counts. That counts. Try finding a movie with Thrash Pondopons. I dare you. Let's see. Danny's giving us another link. Oh, Monster Squad on my live. Excellent. Thank you. Ask you shall receive. Gary Carpenter says, I know that if you didn't get the message, about Lance and Guinevere. Yes, well, now you did. As a way of confirmationing the confirmation. Danny, Tracy says, hey, Dan, and more Squatch sightings. Any more Squatch sightings? Yeah, he just posted something about that the other day. Teb says, which of these popular shows premiered in 1984 do you prefer better? The Crosby Show, Punky Brewster, Who Was the Boss, Jeopardy, Santa Barbara, Mommy Vice, Night Court, Murder She Wrote. I love Night Court. I didn't like Miami Vice at first. Miami Vice kind of grew on me. I must say. I have a weakness for toxic masculinity. I love Jeopardy. I remember we used to watch the original Jeopardy when I was little. So when they brought it back, I thought it was great. We used to watch it at my fraternity house. Never really got into Punky Brewster. We all know how I feel about the Cosby Show. Who's the Boss? Was a very cute show. I did like Who's the Boss. And never watched Santa Barbara or Murder She Wrote. But feel free to put in your own views as we go. Zuplex says, do people know that DVDs don't offer high definition imagery compared to Blu-ray? Yes, but by the time Blu-ray came out, I had already bought so many DVDs and DVD players, I wasn't switching again. So I will make do. I've got to put my eyes aren't good enough to appreciate the high def anyway. But yeah, super. As far as quality goes, Blu-ray is better. Danny says, I quit doing lives the week my mom died. Oh, Dan. Oh, I am so sorry. I had forgotten the 2 and 2 were together. Oh, I'm very, very sorry. Commiserations, lad. Gary Carpenter says, LC, I've got to replace some of my collection. Zuplik says Night Court was his favorite. I've considered that. I can't bring myself to buy any more movie software. I feel that probably in a couple of years, it'll just be like one massive stream, and you can watch any movie you want at any time. So the idea of buying more movies is quaint but archaic. Ellen says, anyone want to send me DVDs? Let me know. Thanks. I could make donations to you, Lance. I have some that I know I'm never gonna watch. A buddy of mine, an associate, has given me a lot of some old slick horror and sci-fi DVDs, and I just don't have room for them. We'll talk. We'll talk later. What Bean says, Night Court and Who's the Boss? Yes, I like both of those shows. Dave says I lost on Jeopardy. I love Weird Al. I have a weakness for Weird Al, and I'm trying to. Was that on the album 3D? I had a couple of albums. I didn't have all of them, but I think my favorite was in 3D, and I believe that song was on that. Gary Cameron says, if you get copies, send me the dupes. Tracy says, Miami Vice for me. Keithy says, hello, Darrell. I'm on my slower iPad. Couldn't say hello sooner. No worries, no worries. Your greetings are always perfectly timed. John Burton says, Betamax for the win. You know what happened to Betamax? Betamax is probably an even better system than VHS. Sony wouldn't share the technology. So other companies had to go out and have their own separate technology. And when they did that, theirs was compatible with each other. So Betamax basically made it the Boo Radley of home entertainment. And as a result of which, people went for the more mainstream platform. Gary Cameron says, Murder She Wrote in Jeopardy. Oh, that's Jiffin says, sorry, Danny. Yes, indeed, commiserations. Shona says, there's some upraised DVD players that approximate 420p with standard DVD. Wow. Tracy says, sorry, Danny, may her name be of blessing. Yes, definitely, definitely. And David concurs. Len says, I have been watching Riptide today. Good show. I've actually never seen the show. I've heard about it. Oh, Tom Hungry Drick says, at work just listening. Tom, so glad you're listening in any capacity. I gave you a shout out earlier, and thank you for being here. Mike and Kathy says, Barney Miller is my favorite. I loved that show. My favorite character was Dietrich. And Tracy concurs, it was great. Oh, Ken Wilkinson is here. He says, good evening, Bob. And good evening to you. Great to see you. Liz Given says Tracy Miami Vice is on Tubi right now. Oh, Terrell says, which of these popular shows premiered in 1966 do you prefer better? Batman, That Girl, Star Trek, TOS, of course, The Newlywed Game, Dark Shadows, Family Affair, or The Monkees? I actually liked all of them in reruns. I wasn't born until 67. Star Trek would have to be my favorite. Batman close second. Newlywed Game was funny, although most of the humor was lost on me as a child. I did like That Girl. That Girl was a cute show. Dark Shadows. My grandmother used to watch Dark Shadows, so I was exposed to it, but I didn't really sink my teeth into it. Monkeys is one of my favorite shows of all time, and Family Affair is good. A lot of people saying hello to Ken. Gary Cameron says, "What about me? I've got to replace some. Oh yeah, and some for you. And me, boss. Oh yeah, and some for you. And me, boss. Oh yeah, and some for you." So Luke says Betamax was 1 hour. Well, VHS was 2 hours. There were 2 hour Betamax available for film because they wanted to be able to do full length features on one Betamax. By the time they were able to perfect that, the platform had died. So it's a pity. It was like the German super subs. By the time they got it up and running, it was too little, too late. But yes, initially they were 1 hour. And I remember 2 pack sets, but they were able to get to fit 2 hours of footage by the end. David says, Attack of the Killer Tomato. Not only do I love Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, I have the sequel, Return of the Killer Tomatoes. Yes, my wife has a crush on George Clooney. It's something I've learned to live with, and he's actually in the sequel. So I bought it as a gag gift for her, but I had seen it years ago when I was in college, and I absolutely love it. There was even a short-lived TV series. Yeah, Lynn says to Gary Carpenter, "We will share from Thrash Pondo." Okay, yes, we certainly shall. As Republic says, Star Trek, though a lot of those other shows were classic too, they certainly were. Keith E says my subscription number was a little bit off for Tracy. She actually has 7. I just checked it. I remember when I was at 7 though, but yeah, that's a little more plausible. 420, 420 is here. It says hello all. 420, 420. Welcome as always. Uh and only 257. Hello, only 257. Welcome aboard. Only 257 says the cartoon series was good too. It was hysterical. I love the cartoon series. 420, 420 says, how's everyone doing? I'm doing well, and I'm so glad you could make it. Only 257 says good. Gary Gabner says Batman and Monkeys and Family Affair. Great shows. Mike and Kathy says beta to VHS to Blu-ray to digital. Yeah, that's the progression. Only 257 says never say never again. The Bond film, of course. Shannon says, LOL, I bet Clooney would appreciate that gag gift. I'm certainly Thrash. I'm certain he would. He has a very self-deprecating way of looking into some of his older movies that weren't particularly good. He stole the movie. He did. He was very, very funny. I think a lot of the stuff he did was actually impromptu too. He's very cute in it. 420 says, I'm okay, same old. Teb says, which of these popular shows premiered in 1964? Do you prefer better? Bewitched, Gilligan's Island, The Munsters, Adam's Family, Another World, Jeopardy, the original, Peyton Place, or Flipper? I never watched Peyton Place, although Ed Nelson was amazing. I did watch Flipper, loved it. Anything with animals. There was that Gentle Ben or Salty the Sea Lion. Loved Flipper. I remember the original Jeopardy from when I was real, real little. My mother used to watch game shows from time to time when I was a little kid. When uh, before she had to go back to work. I never watched Another World. Monsters and Adam's Family were great. If I had to pick one, I'd go with the Monsters, but the Adams Family was great. I loved Bewitched, and of course, Gilligan's Island. I loved Gilligan's Island. Oh, David says Toxic Avengers was great. It certainly was. Only 257 said Bewitched. Zublik says when Betamax switched to 2 hours, Beta 2 was called. Its definition was no better than VHS, rendering its advantage nil. That's an excellent point. I'm glad you mentioned that. The whole upsell to Betamax was it was a much crisper uh, platform. VHS was never very good. It was just prolific. Prolific. It was easy to get your hands on. And when the beta increased its amount of viewing time, there was a corresponding decrease in clarity, and which, as he said, rendered it nil. But again, by that point, it was too little, too late. They were grabbing at straws. There was nothing could stem the avalanche, as they said at the time. 257 says Night of the Living Dead, 1968 classic, one of my favorite films. I tried to figure. I think I've seen that movie based on the fact I see it 3 or 4 times a year on average for the past 30 some odd years. I have seen the film well over 100 times. It could be closer to two because there was a time I watched that movie all the time, particularly if you throw in the riff tracks edition, which I do. Wajimine says all good ones. Teb. Gary Cameron says all of them except Peyton Place in Another World. 257 says, well, it's not any USA Network movies or TV shows, Wedge. Tracy says accurate. 257 Danny says LOL. 257 says La Femme Nikita, great USA Network TV series. Or the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, love the cartoons. Super says Bewitched. 257 says, what is Salty the Sea Lion Pawns? That was a TV show. It came out, I want to say, in the early 70s. It was basically a Flipper ripoff. It's about, instead of two kids who befriend a dolphin and have adventures, it's about two kids who befriend a sea lion and have adventures. The big benefit is the sea lion can actually come out of the water from time to time and interact with them while on land as well as in the sea. But yeah, that was a show I used to watch when I was a kid as well. Liz Given says Octopussy and Never Say Never Again. Two Bond films at the same time. That was weird. 257 says The Addams Family, The Munsters, Batman, The Outer Limits, and The Twilight Zone. Big sci-fi buff here. 257 says Lance, The Green Slime Movie. Most kick-ass theme song to a sci-fi movie ever. Tracy says Art Fleming on Jeopardy. Art Fleming. Read the answers, but I couldn't get the questions right. 420 says Bob Denver got busted getting weed in the mail, and who sent it? Don Wells. Gotta love that. Wowzers. Tom says bought a working Betamax for $10. I believe it. David says I tried watching Rob Zombie Monsters. It was bad. I've heard nothing but bad things about it, I'm afraid. It's not that it's horrible, it just isn't good, and it doesn't really connect as well to the source material. And you've got to, when you make a show that beloved, you have to connect to the source material. Stuttering John is here. Welcome, Stuttering John. Glad you can make it. Stuttering John is here and says, make sure to thank every trans person you meet today for their sacrifices in keeping the country safe. Let's just see what else we get going on here. Lance Chafin says, I have 145 horror DVDs. Ken Wilkinson says, good evening, Tom. Teb says, which fantasy-themed 60s sitcom do you prefer better? Mr. Ed, My Favorite Martian, Bewitched, The Addams Family, The Monsters, I Dream of Jeannie, The Flying Nun, and The Ghosted Mrs. Muir. Wow, there was a lot of high fantasy back then, now that you mention it. I love Mr. A Talking Horse. How could I not love that as a kid? I don't know. They didn't really show My Favorite Martian in my area much, so when I've seen the show, I've liked it, but it wasn't one of my faves as a kid. Again, Bewitched, Addams Family, The Monsters, I certainly loved. I Dream of Jeannie was great. And The Flying Nun is good. And I loved The Ghosted Mrs. Muir. It was a great show. Only 257 says, I can't get the Pina Colada song out of my head. Oh, Rupert Holmes, if you like Pina Colada. And of course, as a kid, I grew up on Cape Cod. So when he mentions the shenanigans on the dunes of the Cape, we'd be singing on the bus. We'd be like, hee hee, hee hee. Duplex says most Betamax units still around are mostly Beta 2s and won't record at original Beta speed. Bummer. Mr. Wilkinson says, do you have a YouTube channel, Tracy? Oh, yes, she does. In fact, Dan has sent us a link. It's Tracy's Fractured History and Stuff. Something like that. I'm sorry. I think I mispronounced a word there somewhere, or misread a word, or misworded a read, or Lance Javen says only and get caught in the rain. Yeah, and get caught in the rain and the feel of the ocean and the taste of champagne. And I've lost my place again, so bear with me. Oh man, I really lost my. Oh no, there it is. Only says, believe it or not, this movie still on. It should have ended 2 hours ago. Oh, he's watching a movie that should have ended 2 hours ago. Well, enjoy. It should end sooner or later. All movies end sooner or later, eventually. Oh, and Kenneth, Tracy's just made a response to you where she shows the name of her new channel because she's broadcasting from it. 420 says Marianne or Ginger. 420, I'm going to level with you. I'm one of the few who say Ginger. For some reason, I always had a thing for Ginger when I was younger. Not that Marianne wasn't beautiful, but I was a Ginger. Gary Cameron says, only I can't get Sugar Sugar out of my head. You know the Monkees were supposed to sing that song? It was supposed to go to them, but the Monkees and Don Kirshner ended up falling out at that point, so it went to the Archies instead. So the book says, Mary Ann, you're in good company. Ziplik says, what was Mary Ann's first name? I thought Mary Ann was her first name. Apparently there's some trick question thing going on here. Only says Barry Driller here. Barry Driller, okay. 420 says, right, Mary Ann. Keith says, my favorite Martian was must-watch TV, and Zuplex goes on to say, very funny, Danny. Oh, I think I just jumped. Yes, I did. So I'm going to try to catch up here. Zuplex says, which is your favorite DVD horror. Lance. Yeah, Lance, what's your favorite horror movie on DVD? Only says this door sounds brown. MST3K joke. I love MST3K. Liz Javen says, I got hooked on a feeling. I'm hooked on a feeling. I'm high believing. Only says MST joke. He's the best. Tracy's Fractured History says, I don't see where they say I Dream of Jeannie was not about a feminist theme. I'm like, no one ever told Ginger no, she got her way. Huh, I never really gave that much thought. Danny says, but you're right. No one ever did tell Ginger no. Remember when the professor was building her a rock garden? Danny Staten says, yeah, I was watching a movie about a pink submarine and a bunch of hot nurses when I got the notification. Ding. Can you name the movie? Operation Petticoat. Um, there was even a short-lived TV show based on it, but yeah, Operation Petticoat. Gary Carpenter says all of them. He likes all the horror movies on DVD. Daryl John says, anyone hear anything good about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? Uh, Mediocrity. Danny's giving us another link. Thank you. Only says it's MST3K Puma Man. I like Puma Man. Tracy says Genie, not Gina. I knew what you meant. Zublink says very funny, Danny. Gary Carver says I can't choose either. Tab says which fantasy themed 80s sitcom do you prefer better? Jennifer slept here, Small Wonder, Alf, Out of This World. The only one that I really watched was Alf. Small Wonder, her robot voice kind of grated on me. I saw a few episodes of Out of This World. You know, Burt Reynolds did the voice of her father on whatever planet her father was from, and I don't remember Jennifer slept here. Lynn says, Zuper, I have all the Friday the 13th on DVD. Wow. Zuper says, Elf. Yes, I'm an elf too. Karen Lee Maloney says, oh, hey, Carolyn. So glad to see you. Karen Lee Maloney says, hello, Thrash Pondo. Great to see you on this Memorial Day, U.S. Oh, U.S. Memorial Day, U.S. Thank you. Sorry you couldn't make it last night, but I'm very, very glad you could make it tonight. I jumped again, so give me a second. Only says he got those movies on DVD as well. Gary Carpenter says that's like choosing Lucy or Ethel. Oh no, it's easy to choose Lucy over Ethel. A lot of people saying hello to Karen Lee. A lot of people like Small Wonder. That's cool. Uh, let's just see what we could go on here. Oh, 257 says the Groove Tube movie. I saw that years ago. Years ago. I don't remember too much about it. I remember being slick. It was sketch comedy, wasn't it? And then 257 says, Pons, have you seen La Femme Nikita TV show on USA Network? I saw the movie was based on, but I haven't seen uh, La Femme Nikita. And Mike and Kathy love Operation Petticoat. Uh, Someone saw both of them. Oh, Gary covers her last name, Marianne Summers. Thank you. 257 says, Out of This World, not my favorite TV show. Saw one episode when I was 7 or 8 back in 91. So Blake says, which 70s independent underground television satire did you enjoy the most? The Groove Tube, Tunnel Vision, or Kentucky Fried Movie? I would probably have to go with Kentucky Fried Movie. I did remember liking the Groove Tube. I don't remember Tunnel Vision. Tim says, which classic 70s normally a sitcom do you prefer better? All the Family, Maud, Good Times, The Jeffersons, Archie Bunker's Place, Sanford and Son, or One Day at a Time? I didn't know he did One Day at a Time. I must have forgotten that. I guess if I had given it some thought. I loved Good Times and The Jeffersons. Sanford and Son and All in the Family, Maud, and I did like One Day at a Time. So I like them all, but probably The Jeffersons was my favorite. I love George Jefferson. Keithy says, okay, this is the chance to sound like owls. Who? Oh, it only says good times. David says, "White feathers, my dad and I would watch classic westerns." I'm guessing. Tracy says, "Did Lidsville ever get a final episode?" I don't believe so. Simply says, "One day at a time because of Valerie Bertinelli." Okay, same here. I'll admit that. Only says TV show Star Trek, Tunnel Vision the movie. Superplex, have you seen Better Off Dead? I love Better Off Dead. Pity they could never make that movie today. Pawns, ever seen Better Off Dead? Yes, I did. I love it, and it's a pity they can't make that movie today. $2. I want $2. Oh, Gary Cameron says, saw the trailer, looks promising. I guess he's talking about the Dial of Death. Only 257 says Doctor Who. Who? Tom Baker, best doctor ever. Lance Chapin says, only in your eyes. Hold the boom box out her window. Form's content is here. Says, hello. Form's content. So glad you could make it. Only says Zuplex, funniest movie ever made. It certainly is. This is snow. This entire mountain is snow. Do you understand the street value of this mountain? Gary Cameron says, Thrasher, Dave would be disappointed about that. Which? I've said many things and read even more, but I hope Dave wouldn't be too disappointed. Ziplik says, I'll try to check it out. To 257. Do. It's a very, very, very funny movie. Zipper says, Revenge of the Nerds comedy classic. It certainly is. Tab says, which 70s family centric drama series do you prefer better? The Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, Family, James at 15/16 or 8 is enough. I love James at 15. They said that in Boston too, by the way, so I thought it was uh, relevant to me as a New Englander. I didn't watch the Waltons much, but I thought it was cool. I love Little House. Family was good or it is enough. I'd probably go with Little House and James at 15, and all the rest sort of filter in, but there's not a bad one in that group either. Mike and Kathy says Dark Star, so strange. I love the movie Dark Star. Lance Chapin says I'm looking for 80s slasher movies on DVD. There's some great ones. Oh, Steve is here. Says Little House. Yeah, that was my favorite as well. Tracy says I love the movie Paper Moon. Oh yeah, with her. I can't think of the actor's name, but yes. Danny Staten gives another link. A lot of people saying hi to Steve. Shannon says Thresh. That Beth girl. Beth girl. May I could date her. I loved how that kept coming. Betty. There you go. I love how that kept coming up in Better Off Dead. It was the go-to late night movie in college for me. Yes, when he breaks up with the girl, everyone asks just so they can ask her out. His science teacher, Barney Rubble, everyone just keeps saying, would you mind if I dated Betty? Yes, I do remember. It was Tatum O'Neal. Thank you. I was going to say Tatum O'Neal. For some reason, that didn't sound right. But yes, thank you, Tatum. And a lot of people are saying Tatum O'Neal. And of course, Tatum and Ryan O'Neal. Duh. But yeah, for some reason, I was, whenever I second guess myself, I kick myself. I should always go with my first instinct. Every now and then I swing wild, but you guys are correct. Only says Sean loved the scene where the car destroys the garage. So funny. Didn't give another link. Gary Cameron says Lamont's girlfriend Janet has passed away at the age of 85. Oh no! Oh, I'm very sorry. That's very sad. Ron Unprepared is here. Says good evening, Ron Unprepared. Uncle Joe, how you doing? For those of you who have access to Facebook, check out Ron Unprepared. He's been putting out some amazing digital artwork. It's really, really good stuff. House of Alex is here. How is everyone? House of Alex. I'm doing great. As you can see, my picture is nice and crisp as I was able to sharpen the imagery with the trick you showed me. Thank you very much. So glad you could make it tonight, man. Simply says, Gary, doesn't Sanford and Son theme music sound like it came from a porno film? I had never given it much thought, but now I can't get that out of my head. Only says love at first bite movie. Great movie, great movie. Gary Carpenter says Jennifer slept here. Why am I not familiar with that TV show? House of X is glad to be of service. Uh, and Liz Chafinson goes on to say Once Bitten. Yeah, there were a few comedy vampire movies now that you mention it. But Love at First Bite, I think, is the funniest. And Denny says, "Lucky I can stay, dude. Canceled the wrestling live stream tonight." Oh, is that what happened? Very glad to see you. Okay, Cameron says, "Never saw James at 15." He just Lance Kerwin, he just passed on in this past year. Very sad. Lance Chafin, Fright Night. Welcome to Fright Night. Oh, by the way, the jury is out. Peter Vincent, played by Roddy McDowell in Fright Night, is the vampire killer. I always thought that was an homage to Peter Cushing and Vincent Price, who did so many horror movies back in the day. But someone said, no, no, it's I'm going to get this wrong. Elvira's last name in real life is Peterson. And there was another horror movie host, one of the first horror movie hosts in this country, I think going back to the 40s, if not late 50s, whose name was Vincent. So when you put the two together, it becomes Peter Vincent. But either way, it was a really cool name, and I love Fright Night. I was just listening to the soundtrack the other night, actually. Only says 70s and 80s best comedies. Gary Carter says Dark Stalkers. 257 says Pawns, the final episode of All in the Family. I don't recall the final episode. Gary Carpenter says Love at First Bite. Len says I bought The Last Starfighter on DVD. There's been a lot of buzz about The Last Starfighter lately, and I haven't seen it in probably 40 years. House of Alex says, what do you think of the end of the Roman and Solo tag match at NOC, Danny Staten? Yeah, please feel free because I have limited information on the matter. Only says this is like the ending of the Return of the Living Dead. It is. They say they have a contingency. Favorite bit about that scene is when they go to the skyline and there's that very, very hokey city skyline and the explosion. As just like a second or two after the bomb explodes, the buildings, you see a light go on. Like some poor schlub who was trying to sleep goes, "What the heck was that?" Well, you're about to find out. But I love Return of the Dead, Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead is one of my favorite horror comedies. Liz Chafin only got it for $3. Wow. Steve says, now all I can think about is Elvira's anatomy. There's a lot to think about there. Only mentions Lidsville. Danny Staten says, LOL, I was rolling hate Roman regions. Only 257 says the Croft Super Show with Michael Lembeck. We were talking about that. Was it last week? Yeah, Michael Lembeck was Captain Cool. Lance Steven says, and I have all three of the Thing movies coming. There were three of them. There was. Are you including the prequel? Because there's Thing from Another World, and John Carpenter's The Thing. Unless you also count Horror Express, which I do. Thank you for the link, Danny. Gary Carpenter mentions the banana splits. Tug is here. Tug says, yo, 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 Tug. Absolutely love your Fire in the Sky video. And not just because you had a special guest. The whole thing is excellent. So glad you could make it. I didn't think you were going to be able to make it tonight. I thought you were still doing Family News. Only says, I got $2. A great TV show. And everyone's saying hello to Tug. And Danny's given a link to the wrestling channel. Thank you very much. Only says it's Shazam TV series. Love that with less Tremaine. I always wanted more Tremaine. Tug says I just recently got Fright Night, so I can do a review of it in October. Perfect time to do a review of it. Gary Carter says Lost Saucer, Far Out Space Nuts, excellent double feature. Tug says, Lance, yeah, that's how I knew Thrash was on. Thanks. Oh, Oh, thank you, Lance. Thank you very, very much. And I'm glad Todd got the message. Out Yale Lance Jiven says, yeah, the thing from 2011, the prequel. And Uncle Joe says, hey, Eric. And, oh, and Danny's giving us another link. Keith is saying, good evening, Tug, as is House of Alex. Zublik says, how many remakes of that crappy 50s movie can they produce? I think John Carpenter's was the definitive. The 1982? John Carpenter's The Thing was 82? Yeah, that one. Tug says, woot, woot, Danny, thanks. And Gary Carpenter says, which one? He's talking about The Thing from Another World, which was remade into John Carpenter's The Thing. Also, Horror Express. And even though they're all based on Joseph Campbell's Who Goes There, I still think they're more akin to H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. Tug, back me up here. I think I need a fact checker on that one. But anyway, I love that H.P. Lovecraft short story. Oh yes, Blitz is saying the thing, yes. And Gary Carter says I like the original movie. The Thing from Another World is the original. Only 257 says, has anyone seen any remakes? Yeah, John Carpenter's was a remake. But Gary is championing the original. Oh, I love the original Blob. Oh, he's going to a different. I saw the original again. Yes, the original Blob was great. I tried so much to like the '80s remake, and I just couldn't. But the original I thought was great. Only 257 liked the remake. I tried to like it, and I don't know what it was missing. I really tried to like it, but it was just sort of. I watched it and it kind of left me cold, you know. But again, it was just I don't know what it was. It was missing something. I don't know what. I would have to watch it again, where I could be a little more objective. Tug says I am pathologically allergic to getting rid of my DVDs. Lance, same page club. Zubik says Gary Carpenter, John Carpenter's The Thing was good. The original 1950s Thing was bland. They really, they really lacked the capacity to really do the film as they should have, and the work did suffer. But I wouldn't say it was bland. I do like the remake better. Oh, and Danny's given us a link to the reviewed Last Starfighter. Thank you. Although only is still saying Zuper, the 50s version was the best. Tug says, I do think there are shades of Lovecraft, but Carpenter one is surprisingly true to Who Goes There. Oh, yes, it is. But I think the whole package, I think when Campbell was writing Who Goes There, I think he was borrowing from Lovecraft. I think Lovecraft is the sort of parent story to them all. I just want to make sure I got the short story right. It is At the Mountains of Madness, correct? Or am I off with that short story? Uh, Only says it came from outer space. Great movie. It certainly is. Gary Carter says, I love Time Bandits. I so love Time Bandits. I saw it not too long ago on late night TV. Only says Gary Carpenter, Night of the to Gary, Night of the Comet. My favorite holiday movie ever made. Zerbrooke says we have different tastes. Only 257. Owen Lance is asking Tug, when's your next live stream? Tracy says, loved Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Oh, of course. Of course. Um, I loved his adaptation of Special Delivery, the Ray Bradbury short story. Tug says, the Blob remake didn't have the same charm. It was too action heavy and predictable, and I still liked it. Zerblick says, Night of the Great Demons was great. Night of the Demons was amazing. 257 says, Geek loved both. Zerblick says, I will try to check that out. 257. Gary Cabra says, Tiger Sharks, Donna Saucers, and Street Sharks. Those came out when I was going through my I am so above cartoon phase when I was like in college. I was too old to appreciate them as a youngster, but not old enough to be like I can Be an adult and watch cartoons. So I miss those, I'm afraid, but they sound familiar at least. Alex says, not really on the same topic, but do you guys get the anthology series Inside Number Nine? I may have asked previously. I don't recall you asking, but I love anthology series, and it's a very intriguing name. I will check it out and get back. I haven't yet, but I'll get back to you. I'll check it out. Inside Number Nine. Number nine. Number nine. Tug says, "Ah, I see. Campbell definitely knew Lovecraft, and yes, that's the right story." Thank you, Tug. When you have so much information crammed into one noggin, you sometimes miss facts. Oh, and 257 says, Zuper, it's on YouTube. Oh, good to know. Keithy says, at about seven, oh, at about age 7, seeing the flying version in 1958 was very upsetting to me, and my older brother would just say, help me, a." That sounds very traumatic. Let's just see. Oh, and Tug says, keep me posted on the live stream. Oh, two Tug. Lance says, two Tug, keep me posted. Only 257 says, Earth versus the Flying Saucers movie, great one. Tug says, Lance, not next week, but the week after. I'm traveling next week. We'll enjoy your travels. Gary Carpenter says, the day the Earth stood still, the original. Oh, the original Fly. Yes, only says the original Fly. Great movie. House of Alex says it's made by two of the writers of League of Gentlemen. It's worth a watch. Ooh, you have me right there, League of Gentlemen. Zubik says, you know what, Keith E., the original The Fly was a classic and unpredictable, but the Cronenberg The Fly has its own merits too. That sets it apart from the original. I see. Yes, I can tell. And I remember the spider web at the end. Oh, it took me a second when your brother would go, help me. Okay. I it took me a second to remember that scene. I haven't seen the movie in years, but yes, that's traumatic. I can see that being traumatic. Only says my family member is watching Dawn of the Dead movie 78 classic. It certainly is. Tug says the remake of Day of the Earth Stood Still is one of the worst remakes of all time. I refuse to see it. I refuse to see it. Oh, Liz Gibbons says pick me up a souvenir. Oh, and Danny's given us another link. And Keithy agrees with Zuper. Zuper, yes. And yes, they do. I'll agree with you. They both have their own merits. Uh, oh, and only says the Demons movie. Oh, Gary Carpenter says Reptilicus, Giant Claw, and Deadly Mantis. I love all of those. I love schlock movies. Tug says both versions of The Fly are great, but for different reasons. Again, well said. Yes, I think I like both of them. One of them sort of an 80s shock horror film and done very well, and I think it just worked on many levels. But the original one is more of a thriller. Mystery Men and Monsters is here. Holy cow. Said, hey, what did I miss? Mystery Men and Monsters. I was just thinking about you the other day. I was going through some of my old posts and I saw one of your comments. And I'm like, where the heck has and M been? It's been like way too long. So glad you could make it. Welcome to the party. Right now, we're just having a random discussion of mostly old sci fi movies at this point. Tracy said Bride of Frankenstein was a classic. It certainly was. 257 says The Last House on the Left, disturbing movie geek from the 70s. Which is actually based on an old Swedish film starring Max von Sydow. Not which isn't quite so ultra violent. Tug says Flight 2 is, well, it has Eric Stoltz and Daphne Zangia in it, and I guess that's all he can say about it. Teb says, which 70s superhero themed show do you prefer? $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman, Man from Atlantis, The Incredible Hulk. I liked all of those, but I'm going to have to go with $6 Million Man. Then Wonder Woman, Incredible Hulk, Man from Atlantis. Bionic Woman never really grabbed me, but it was good. Lance Jamin says Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, a classic. Love that movie, even though they didn't care for it. Everybody's saying all of them to Teb. Only 257 said only 257 says interesting pawns. Very interesting. Uh Danny says the giant mantis is not only a great movie and a classic, it actually stands up still like Tarantula and the Blob. You are so correct. John Help. I always want to put an L in your name. John Hepfer says Jordan Knight is so handsome. Not my type, but to own their each. By the way, John, thank you so much. Welcome to the party. 25772 only says Hills Have Eyes 1977. Alex says I recall some scene in the original in The Fly 2 with some dog getting turned into some living blob and then getting killed with chloroform. Ooh, sick. Jibbook says there was a Fly 2. What was it about? And ew. Tug says Last House on the Left is a disturbing movie for sure. That's Wes Craven's start, I think. I believe it was. It's certainly what put him on the map. And a lot of people are agreeing. Tug says, Danny, I keep putting Deadly Mantis up for a Patreon vote, but it never wins. Someday I'll cover it. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Lynn Chapman says, how about Total Recall? Only says more disturbing Cannibal Holocaust pawns. Cannibal Holocaust is a very, very disturbing movie. I believe it was banned at some point, or maybe not banned outright, but discouraged. But yes, it's a very disturbing movie. Dennis Gaten says Giant Claw, not so much. LOL, big as a battleship. I know. They originally were going to use a different monster, but the studio that was making the monster they had a falling out with, so they had to rush one into production and went with the joke angle. Steve says, "Remember the movie The Baby?" I don't. I don't. Alex says, "Total Recall was a childhood staple of mine, rightly or wrongly." Lance Tab says, "By the time Wonder Woman switched networks from ABC to CBS, the show did an unusual time jump from World War II to present day in the '70s." And I never figured that out. That I love the original '40s period piece, but when it went to present day, it just bugged me. I could never reconcile it. Um, in any event, Liz Chairman says, Alex, consider that a divorce. Consider that a divorce. Pawns, ever see Secrets of Isis? Yep. Uh, Uncle Joe says, thoughts on I Spit on Your Grave? Super violent movie. Very disturbingly violent. Tug says, I love Total Recall, but I still wonder what it would have been like if Cronenberg had actually made it. Me too. He worked on it for years before it went to Verhoeven, I believe it, and I can imagine what he would have done with it. Zubik says, Great Lance was one of the Schwarzenegger's most entertaining movies in Saturday Matinee. Way, I can certainly see that. John says, R.I.P. to Milt Larson. Gary Carpenter says, Danny, what I'm sorry. That is what they said in the movie. To me, he's another Rodan. Dennis Gaten says Giant Claw. They could have had Ray Harryhausen, but to save money, they went with a Mexican pinata company. 257 says my family member is now watching a disturbing puppet movie. Pawns, a disturbing puppet movie. Oh, I think another one you're talking about. Liz Jamin says Alex Arnold said when he shuddered, yes, consider that divorce. Oh, Big Guys 245 is here. Hello. Hello, good to see you. Everyone said hi to Big Guy. Steve says Angetta Connor was the star of The Baby. It tells the story of a social worker who investigated a family which includes the baby, a 20-year-old man who acts like an infant. I am not familiar with this film. No, nightmare fuel. Curse you, Howard the Duck. Big Guys 45 says just finished watching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas about half hour ago. Great movie. Liz Chapin says got Total Recall from '91 coming soon. Excellent. Tug says, I saw a Rodin figurine for sale the other day, but I just couldn't afford it. I'll be regretting it for a while, methinks. Yeah, I can certainly understand that. Gary Cameron says, what did you mean by they didn't care for it? It's hilarious. I'm not sure which one that was. There were a few things we talked about in there. Alex says, oh God, yeah, didn't get that at all, Lance Chafin, my bad. um, oh, and only 257 says that is what my family member is watching. Cons Howard the Duck. Oh, okay, Howard the Duck. Yeah, yes. It was at its time one of the biggest financial disappointments in American cinema history. Teb says, which 70s Gary Marshall sitcom do you prefer better? Odd Couple, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, or Angie? Loved all of them. I started out with The Odd Couple, but Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley definitely, and I love Mork and Mindy, and of course Angie. So I love them all. Let's just see. Big Guy says, bad news. I got two unfair copyright claims by Warner on my TikTok earlier today. If my second account gets deleted, I'm definitely not going to make another one. That's for sure. Very sorry. Commiserations. Hope it works out for you, Mike. And Kathy says, nobody likes Speed 2. Return of the Killer Speed. Tug says, House of Alex, you can skip it. I've seen it. I remember nothing. Love you with the Odd Couple. And Alex says, I'll take your advice, Tug. And Karen Lee Maloney says, now I love the Odd Couple. Danny Staten says, I was watching Jeff Dunham doing a puppet show yesterday. My 7-year-old granddaughter came into the room and started laughing. She looked at me and said, it's a doll with of the president. Jeff Dunham's very funny. Tug says, copyright on the internet is broken. And yes, I like the Back to the Future movies only. Gary Cameron says all the Godzilla movies were a staple for me. Oh, me too, definitely, definitely. John Hepfer says Gary Marshall, uh, have me my crush, and then goes on to say gave me my crush. I think a lot of people get crushes from Gary Marshall's shows, and only 257 says to geek agreed. Oh, and Gary Carpenter says who is the crush? Feel free to fill in the comments below. 257 says, isn't the Little Shop of Horrors public domain, Pawns? Yes, it is. But Tug recently discovered, as I did with him, that just because something can be public domain doesn't mean it can't be copyright struck. I'm not sure how it works. I think there's different versions. Different producers put copies out. So they may not own the entertainment, but they own the version that can be shown and you can still get strikes. Keithy says, Big Guy 45, your original channel on YouTube is almost at 1,000. Steve says, speaking of Angetta Corner, surely you have seen The Loved One with Robert Morris. I love Robert Morris. He just died recently. And only 257 says, no way, Pawns. And John says, I'll give you a hint. She's a Versace spokesperson. I'll figure it out. Anywho, we're getting on the hour mark. Remember, I said today I was just going to go for like an hour or so, just as a commemorative thing to like not let Ian lose his Monday night spot. So I think I'm going to call it here. But again, as always, I want to say thank you guys so much for showing up. I had a great time as always. Hope you guys had a great time as well. And I want to thank you all again for just being interactive. I had 900. I had 900 comments from last night's show. Week before, I had like 1,200. You guys really make these shows. And I just want to say thanks a lot. And remember, I'll be doing another show Sunday. I'm going to try to do something during the week this week, but I don't know if I can. Remember, I got the computer course Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then I'm working nights all this week. So I don't know if I can, but I'll try to get something content-wise out this week. But anyway, until next Sunday, I want to thank you guys so much. Be good, be safe, be careful. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.